What is that?
Mogwai.
A film about cute creatures who can inadvertently spawn an army of hateful monsters sounds either like a My Little Pony convention gone south or a classic 80s film blending genres. Gremlins.
Hey. There now. Don't you feel better, huh?
Gremlins is a 1984 film directed by Joe Dante and produced by Steven Spielberg's company Amblin. It's a little tricky to assign it to a single genre. Is it a horror? Is it a comedy or a fantasy? Or is it a horror comedy fantasy? Or if we want to be really sarcastic, a schmorra schmomedy schmantasy.
Mom, it's straight.
Gremlins has a dark side and a light side, a cute side and a gross side. There's no red blood, but a lot of creatures are killed in this film in quite gruesome ways, both gremlin and non-gremlin, which I now freely admit means people. But they are quality comedy deaths mixing laughs with shock value.
I'll take him to the kennel. They'll put him to sleep. It'll be quick and painless compared to what I could do to him.
The place is Kingston Falls, a small town named for how its founder Kevin Kingston died. Hence the town's full legal name. Kingston falls on his head after falling from a tall tree. The time is nearly Christmas. Billy Peltzer is a young man with dreams of being an artist, but until then he's working in a bank. Everyone in town loves Christmas except Kate, who's got her own reasons.
While everybody else is opening up their presents, they're opening up their wrists.
Mr. Futterman drives a snowplow and complains about foreigners and gremlins if they're not one and the same.
Good morning, Mrs. Deagle.
What's good about him?
Rich lady Mrs. Deagle is a nasty meanie, but if you have a problem with her, then you can kiss my Grinch.
Fantastic ideas for a fantastic world. I make the illogical logical, and I have something here that I think you might be interested in.
Rand Peltzer is an inventor, but truth be told, not a particularly great inventor, so it's a mystery why he's not yet a billionaire. Among his catalogue of counterproductive woe is the Swiss Army jockstrap, waterproof chewing gum, and the inkjet printer. He tries and fails at selling another of his gadgets in a mysterious shop in Chinatown, where he instead finds a gift for his son, a new pet called a Mogwai. The owner, Mr. Wing, isn't selling.
Mogwai, not for sale.
But Rand does a deal with Wing's grandson behind the old man's back. This cute little critter has a name, Gizmo. It and Billy take to each other instantly. There are just 3 teeny tiny little things to remember, little insignificant things, almost not worth mentioning, but like paying attention to your flight instructor, it's optional. Don't expose them to bright light, don't get them wet, and don't feed them after midnight. I've been following those rules myself for several years by living in a small box. The rent is cheap, but it may be time to empty out the bucket. The Peltzer house is full of Peltzer Sr.'s almost perfected inventions. A machine that is supposed to juice oranges, a machine that's supposed to make coffee, a device that's supposed to break eggs, etc. The arrival of the Mogwai Gizmo will soon unleash a level of chaos previously unseen in a house where all talk of the Peltzer bidet has been banished. Mogwai is something different, and of course, almost immediately, Billy's friend Pete spills some water on Gizmo, which ends with him ejecting a bunch of furballs that turn out to be more Mogwai. Except these Mogwai don't have the sweet personality of Gizmo. They're more of a gang, led by one particular Mogwai that Billy calls Stripe. Having broken one rule, a second is soon broken. A sabotaged clock has led to the Mogwai, led by Stripe, to eat after midnight. This turns them into some sort of intermediate stage of a transformation.
Except for Gizmo.
Billy's taken one Mogwai to his former teacher, Mr. Hansen, to examine, who, after emerging from its cocoon, kills Mr. Hansen. Stripe and company also emerge, and then some of them attack Billy's mother in the kitchen. In one of the film's signature scenes, she fends off various gremlins with whatever is to hand, a juicer, a microwave. But sometimes you just need a good kitchen knife. They never have this in the infomercials. The post-transformation version of the Mogwai aren't half as cute. The gremlins are mean-spirited, nasty creatures. They multiply to the point where they're about to cause chaos throughout the town. Mr. Futterman is attacked when a gremlin drives his own snowplow through his house.
There's a real gremlin in my kid!
The town Scrooge, Mrs. Deagle, gets her comeuppance when her stairlift is amped up. It's also quite possibly one of the earliest jokes about a stairlift, a device that has its place, but it's never not funny in a movie. The sheriff and his deputy, whose name is definitely not Mike, were at first dismissive of Billy, but have slowly come to the conclusion that he might just possibly have been telling the truth. So if you saw the Mogwai at the start and thought, so cute, I want one, do you still want one now? The Gremlins have taken over the town. Billy and Kate have a moment where she explains why she hates Christmas, because that's when her father died.
He was dressed in a Santa Claus suit. He'd been climbing down the chimney on Christmas Eve. He slipped and broke his neck.
Wow, that went somewhere really dark. The Gremlins are creatures of base desires, here trying to one-up each other like watching two pro wrestlers trying to discuss the relative merits of Dean, Jess or Logan in Gilmore Girls. The Gremlins are in a theatre watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You'd think they'd be watching a Warner Brothers movie in a Warner Brothers movie. You know, any Warner Brothers movie, so long as it doesn't rhyme with Schmat Girl. Billy blows up the cinema, and then there's still Stripe to deal with in a store, before Gizmo saves the day by opening a blind just as day breaks, melting Stripe. And then Mr. Wing from the start of the movie comes back to reclaim Gizmo. Gremlins came from aspiring screenwriter Chris Columbus, based on where he was living at the time, a dank apartment in New York, where rodents would drop in whenever they liked. He thought about cute critters turning into monsters and wrote a screenplay which was sent to dozens of producers. One producer who actually read the script was Steven Spielberg, who aside from directing huge movies of the 80s, would also produce a number of other directors' films which would also become huge hits.
This could really be the big one.
He loved Gremlins, even though the hard R horror of the first draft was not what he wanted to produce. Spielberg bought the script and had Columbus produce more drafts, which would be closer to the final product. One of Spielberg's major contributions was to have one Mogwai not turn evil, and that of course was Gizmo. Gremlins was a term coined at one stage to explain mechanical failures. I often blame my car's mechanical failures on Gremlins. That's mainly because at some point a Gremlins branded lunchbox somehow became wedged in my driver's side front suspension coil. Mogwai was based on the Chinese word for devil. Columbus refined the screenplay while the producers found a director to match the material. Joe Dante had been cutting trailers for Roger Corman's New World in the 70s and eventually moved to directing films first for Corman and then on his own. Piranha and The Howling were both horror movies, but Dante had also directed 2 episodes of the comedy series Police Squad. Dante was hired to direct Gremlins, where he would mix comedy and horror in the one film. The town of Kingston Falls is meant to be an idealized version of a small town, like the town from It's a Wonderful Life, but with slightly more murder than Frank Capra's long-lost director's cut. One suggestion was to go for a mostly unknown cast. Zach Galligan was a fresh-faced actor, Phoebe Cates was the girl next door, who possibly lived next to a house that was curiously never on the market for more than 30 seconds. Hoyt Axton was mostly known as a folk and country music singer. Dick Miller was once a writer who became a regular in Roger Corman-produced movies. Judge Reinhold was not legally a judge, despite what his parents thought. Key Luke was by this stage in his career playing the same mystical Asian dude whenever he popped up. Gizmo was voiced by Howie Mandel, while Stripe was voiced by top animal sound guy Frank Welker. And like 90% of movies from the era, it has a Corey. Top flight composer Jerry Goldsmith provided a whimsical score at a time when whimsical scores were not often well received. But his Gremlins theme permeates the film, and it's hard to think of the film without that soundtrack. Goldsmith and Spielberg both make cameos in the film, with famed animator Chuck Jones also appearing. Despite the Christmas setting, Gremlins was filmed at the Burbank Studios during the spring and summer with fake snow and actors having to wear cold weather clothing during the hottest months. Either that or nobody could agree on what temperature to set the thermostat. Apart from some stop motion, the majority of the Mogwai and the Gremlins were achieved through puppets. Some larger puppets with more detail and more expressive movements were constructed for close-ups. Their design and the puppetry of both the Mogwai and the Gremlins won a lot of fans, apart from the crew making the actual film, as the puppets themselves could be a pain in the neck to get right.
Oh, Dad, see what I mean?
That hard R-rated original script was whittled down to a PG, but Gremlins pushed the envelope as to what you could get away with a PG movie. The scene where Kate explains about her dead father rotting in the chimney was one that most people, bar Dante, wanted out of the film, but with all the other dark moments in the movie it fits quite well. Such was the reaction to Gremlins and Spielberg's Temple of Doom the same year that the MPAA agreed to a new rating that fell somewhere in the middle between PG and the R rating. The new rating would be PG-13, which apparently does not stand for
pretty gutless, but you can say 13 swear words so long as only one of them is f***.
So it's a dark fantasy horror comedy set at Christmas with lots of people being brutally murdered and dozens of gremlins being pureed, microwaved, shot, stabbed, blown up and melted. It'll never work. Except it did, with Gremlins becoming one of the biggest box office hits of 1984, eventually making something close to, 15 times its original $11 million budget. There was obviously merchandise, video games and cartoon spin-offs. But a 1990 sequel didn't do great business, despite it amping up the satirical comedy.
Talk a little bit about what's going on in this room.
Gremlins was very popular, but hasn't necessarily had the staying power of other big movies of the same year, such as Ghostbusters, Temple of Doom, The Terminator, or Karate Kid. However, people remember certain bits. Everyone knows the 3 rules of Gremlins, and possibly they remember the gremlin being microwaved. I mean, if they did it again now, cooking a gremlin in an air fryer probably wouldn't have the same zing. Gremlins is a timeless, dark horror comedy that's perfect for people who don't like Christmas. Is it a Christmas movie or just a movie set at Christmas? Actually, how about we don't start that Die Hard as a Christmas movie shit again? If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.
There just might be a gremlin in your house.